Hey everyone, I'm Oren Langberg, Head of Marketing and Community here at Jigsaw Sidekick, and welcome to the first episode of our new short series, Work Related, a series where we dive into different topics affecting our work life, and we sit down with industry veterans. Today we're going to discuss how AI is transforming the way that we work, and we're joined here by a couple people. First of all, let me bring on board Shani.
Founder and CEO of Jigsaw, and Ziv Peled, Chief Customer Officer at Appsflyer.
Anyway, thanks guys for joining us. It's a really exciting first episode for us. And maybe go ahead one by one, just give us a couple minutes about yourselves, and then we'll dive right in. Or go ahead.
Thanks, Oren. So real quick, I'm a CEO and founder of Jigso, Sidekick, and essentially what we do is we develop an AI command center that connects your different apps and can do different things for you using genai and so on and so forth. Before that, I was the CEO and founder of Albert AI, a machine learning company that we started a while ago. That's basically it.
Sweet. Ziv, give us a little rundown about yourself, just like a brief intro.
Sure. I'm the Chief Customer Officer at Appsflyer. I've been with the company a little bit over 10 years now. I'm adding everything that is related to customers, customer success and support. For 2.5 years in the middle, I also led the product team. That's pretty much it.
Just diving kind of into it, right? Like AI has definitely been buzzing like crazy, and it's not even new, right? It's been around for over 10 years. People have been talking about kind of AI. So are things different today? Like is the buzz all real, or is it going to be like another flop that kind of tapers out? What do you guys think about that?
Sure. Yeah, I think what we saw in the last 10 years was mainly lots of experiments. Some companies went out from these experiments. I used a few vendors in the past for predicting churn or predicting upsell opportunities, etc. But those companies were very early to the game. It took them a long time to train their machine learning models, etc. And even the successful ones couldn't survive, I think it was 2017, 18, 2019. And most of those companies didn't survive or went to B2C. So that were the machine learning companies. I'm sure there's a better category for those. And I think that AI is what we see now, mainly LLM, is looking at something different. It's like something... it's not yet replacing all the machine learnings of big data that we saw before. It's just going to LLM, to language models, and taking a lot of, we are B2B companies with a lot of unstructured data that just, even B2C wise, when I'm using ChatGPT and my ability to now order my data, structure my data, is enabling me to do more. And then on a company scale, now, we have services, and probably we'll speak a little bit about all these services. So, we use email, and all that data is available in Salesforce, inbound, outbound. We use Gong, so most of the calls are being recorded, and at least the ones that are able to transcribe, that are in English. Now there are more and more structured data that you can now search in and use a sentiment on and do so many different things that even if it was available before, it took months, and today it's available 10 minutes after the call ended, etc., etc. So I think that this is the beginning of the revolution.
Yeah, and I think also, we saw it, and also in my previous company, it used to be that tons of onboarding needed to be made, and the process was slow, and the system would learn slowly. So the improvement was gradually, and people would debating whether, I'll just bring somebody that is really good and we'll do it manually, or we're going to use an AI machine learning system. It was a big discussion. It was hard to show the value. And today, the first time I tried, ChatGPT, I was like, wow, that's crazy. So time to money, essentially, or time to impress a potential user is changed dramatically.
How are you guys each using AI today, like with how you work?
Yeah, I'm using a few services myself from my productivity, mainly professional, but for my productivity, I'm using obviously ChatGPT. I'm using Perplexity, and I'm using Superhuman. Those are the main tools that I'm using as a user myself. But in the company, we're using, first of all, we did a very important step in the beginning of 2023 as a company focus led by IT and the CISO and the data officer to go and look at all their main services that were debuting, making sure that we can use those in a private manner, and to make it. And for that, for example, we use a open API on Azure and fully regulated. So we define what is the retention of the data, etc., and what are the services that are we're able to use. And some of the things that we are now doing are off the shelf. We're trying to buy off the shelf, while some of the things we're building ourselves. So we have at least, if I'm not mistaken, at least 10 projects, internal and also external. So some are products as well, but mainly internal, that we're trying to improve the way we work on the IT level, client services, go to market, and we're looking at more and more things. And it's really interesting because some of these services. Then second part of 2023, my focus was to look at like which of my vendors, all the vendors said AI, but which of the vendors really hold for their promise. And
Yeah.
then I can mention here, I see some value in Zendesk, and I see a lot of both value but also momentum in Gong, and I think it's really important to be ahead of that. And then I look to maybe they will hear that and they will do more. I look to companies like Salesforce, and I'm waiting to get some more things over Salesforce and Slack and more.
Yeah. And Ziv, give us like one, like the best use case or the best example you can think of that you think made the most impact on your work.
Yeah,
Doesn't matter if you develop it yourself or a vendor, it doesn't matter.
So I'll give you two. One internal we developed and one external, and the internal one we're still developing. So we are looking at all the knowledge that we have internally and externally. Most of it is external, and we look at all the tickets that we have from the history, around I think the 700,000 tickets.
Yeah.
And now we give the ability for the support engineer on a new ticket to get the recipe for the solution. So because we saw so many different tickets, so we don't know to give the exact solution, but we say it's either that recipe or that recipe or that. Usually three of recipes. That's the internal one. I'll give you, the best one I get as an executive on Gong. I have a Looker dashboard that I get all their Gong recording, all the top latest 500 Gong recordings, and I select which ones to hear. And previously, for English, Spanish, and Portuguese, for English, I was listening. For the others, I looked to see like if they can get some action items, etc. Now, not only did I get the translation of the summary of the call, now I get with Gong LLM, Gong GPT, I'm actually asking. I have a prompt that is saved. Says, please summarize the call in 8 concise points. Tell me if there's risks. What is the customer trying to achieve, and what are the business desired outcomes? It's remarkable.
That's awesome. That's such a good use case. And in your org, do you have like one person that leads all these AI initiatives, internal and external, or is like every department deals with it the way they want to do it?
So there's business application and IT are leading anything AI in the company,
Hmm.
and we are working very, very closely with them. So first of all, we know many companies. Um, I have relationships with many interesting companies, and then the amount of new companies globally is really, really interesting, and it's really hard to select which one to go for and how to differentiate. But like when we find one, then we introduce them to that group from the IT, and for them to evaluate. And they also try to help us innovate and develop. We also have a consultant that works with us, and he's leading anything AI, and he can also, you know, is consulting around code, so for the internal things and the ability to do things. And I think also, maybe one of the big challenges that companies and individuals they don't know, it's not just even if you build the perfect prompt, it doesn't
Hmm.
mean that the open API will work great for you. You need to know what training is. You need to know how much, what is the minimum amount of data that you should have for something to work.
Yeah.
And I think this is crucial, and many people fails at that. Maybe one point around this is that
Hmm.
because we are doing those internal things, and for us we know which exact data point is relevant, so we see that both on cost of the model and of the accuracy of the model when we run it internally, because we know which segment of data to look at, we are running better cost and better accuracy from versus the vendors. So it's,
Yeah.
it's really, really interesting. I think that larger companies should build some of these things to be able to
Their
to
own.
do
Yeah.
these things, uh, especially when it's custom. I don't think it should be the default. I think that there's many companies in many things that companies must have a good IT process and CISO process, because if you want to be ahead, you must be able to buy from vendors and do it fast. I think it's
Yeah.
crucial.
That makes sense. And do you have any concerns internally, not necessarily you specifically, but in the org of the data security and processes? Because you're like, oh, I'm sending out all my knowledge base, all my tickets, and so on. It feels like very intimate.
Yeah. So where we do things like that, we always do it on a B2B level and with a retention. So it's always on open AI restricted APIs and approved ones.
Hmm.
We will never use customer data, obviously. And even when we build some cool things now in the product, we only use it on the structure of SQL. So
Mm.
and actually that's very interesting. So we did an hackathon last year in engineering and product, and we saw that the LLM modules are very, very, very intelligent, where probably they already learned tens, hundreds of millions, maybe billions of this kind of structure. So
Yeah.
they don't need our data, but also they don't need a lot to learn our structure. So the metadata of the query,
Hmm.
very fast it understands the data types and the data structures and
Yeah.
returns. So what was amazing, I'll give you an example. In that hackathon, one of the teams, I don't remember if it was the winning team, but they trained the module to answer one question. But then the judges, I was one of them,
Hmm.
we asked to ask another question, was not trained, and the LLM knew how to answer it. It
Yeah.
knew how to look at the data, because the structure of the SQL was including all the data points.
Yeah. That's so cool.
Very,
And
very cool.
and in your org, how do you? Because I hear it from many colleagues. How do you view the ROI calculation of that? Because obviously you spend time on it, engineers spends time on it. there's cost for vendors, cost for OpenAI, and so on and so forth. How do you actually measure it? Is like every project has their own ROI goal, or is it just goes without saying that you'll save time, money by it?
Yeah, I think now we are on a level where we shouldn't. Yeah, we should maybe measure cost. I don't think we are in a stage of measuring ROI. I think the measuring ROI will come next. I think that
Mhm.
you know when I speak to Zendesk and I bought their AI suite. It's first year and it's they don't have the full offering yet, but I
Yeah.
definitely I bought it. But what I told them is that for me to buy it next year or the year after, they have a very clear KPI from me. So if my support engineer today can handle 80 or 90 tickets a month, because
Mhm.
we're B2B and very sophisticated technical questions, so it takes time
Yeah.
to analyze and sometimes you even open Jira back to engineering.
Mhm.
So their success or their KPI from me to buy it also next year will be if they will enable me to do 110, 120 tickets per support agent next year. And I think that this is just the tipping, just the tip of the iceberg, just the beginning of how we should look at AI. Because now I think that this is really first step. Now, I think the
Yeah.
second step is reinventing some of the jobs that we are currently doing. So I think we don't have a prompt manager, and then later on we will have people that we will manage the AI agents,
Yeah.
and
AI
later on
optimization agents.
AI optimization agents, and later on I think that even product managers will be AI flow product managers.
Yeah.
And then I think um, it's a risk and an opportunity, because I think then how would you measure that you don't have a black hole, blind spot, anything that from a marketing campaign, but now you have it in the product in so many different areas in the product that you don't know. Maybe AI starts to answer things at some point in the journey that you didn't design, and now you don't know about it. So now
Yeah.
we will need better monitoring, etc., etc.
Yeah.
But I think AI,
You don't even know what you don't know. That's going to be the next
exactly,
problem.
exactly.
That's that's awesome. And what do you think, like, if you have to throw your imagination 10 years from now, like, where do you think it will head?
I think 10 years from now is I think it's super far, because I think you know part of
Everybody
the
is still shocked from OpenAI, so you can't even imagine where we'll be in 10 years.
yeah, but I think OpenAI, people should not be stuck on ChatGPT. I think
Of
that
course.
you need to look at new services. I think I mentioned Perplexity before, because Perplexity is really like ChatGPT can research and even gives you the sources if you push it. But but Perplexity searches in real time in all the available data in the internet, and also structure this very well, structure the output very, very well. And by default, gives you citations on real sources. And then for now, they don't have it in the default, but I'm giving that in every prompt. I'm saying just look at data from the last 12 months, 18 months, 24 months. So
Yeah.
you also know it's very, very fresh.
Yeah.
And the amount of data that you can, by the way, it can be very. We're going on a vacation to Florida next month, so I have a table with all the amusement parks in Orlando and links, and the opening time and the closing time and the price
Yeah.
the drive time from the hotel. So it's all there, and it took me three ping pongs with AI. It's really
Yeah.
remarkable, and it's good for these things. And next month probably there will be a service that ChatGPT is doing, and we should be able to do similar things, but maybe even better. I
Yeah.
think that you know what's really interesting, and I think that it's pros and cons. It's image generation, video generation, all these things that, on one side, yeah, I want to generate. I don't want to build a presentation for my next presentation. I would love to build a 30 seconds video that will explain exactly the point that I want to explain, and
Yeah,
just to play that. But on the other side, on the same point, I don't want to watch a TV series that was fully generated by GPT.
yeah. Okay,
So that's where I
times
see.
will tell.
So that's where I see part of the future. I think what we see on LinkedIn now is the beginning of that. Is that, like, it's not writers in Hollywood, but it's much easier now for people to generate content. So they generate the content, and then now it's much harder for people to read content because we don't. Yeah, we have a little bit more time, but what content should we read? Which source should we read? I think that's the next fatigue. The next
Yeah,
fatigue starts now.
yeah. That's one of the problems that, if you always try to find like the best possible answers or recommendation and so on, you always default to kind of an average or a good average. Where sometimes, you need that ingenuity to bring new things to the market. Think about like a TV show like Seinfeld or Curb Your Enthusiasm. Who would ever thought about creating a show like that? So this is where it becomes interesting. And there's no doubt there will be some very big creative questions, and where we're heading in this way. And that will probably be true also to the workplace, I would assume. Speaking of writing and things like that, can you give us like, as this is like a work-related um, webinar, like give us like the best business book you ever read, and would recommend everybody to read it.
Yeah, I think Shoe Dog is definitely one of the fundamental ones that I read. I think there's many business books that, good to great, many
No,
many
you have
many.
to pick one. You have to pick
Yeah,
one.
I know. I'm sticking with Shoe Dog. I'm saying, like, there's really great books like Good to Great, and how to do things more efficiently. And
Yeah,
I think what I like about Shoe Dog is that it doesn't give you piles of frameworks and saying, oh, this is like, there's one narrative, one very important message that you get out of that book, that it's good for an individual, it's good for a CEO, it's good for the founders or investors. In the end, it's showcase of one person that could have stopped the journey at so many different points and never stopped,
never
never
stop.
gave up, never gave
Yeah,
up.
that's
And
also good.
on the same part, it's like, if he believed in his ideas so much that every year he doubled his bet
Yeah.
with the banks. But it's really amazing. So,
All right. Thank you, Ziv. Really appreciate the time, the good insights.
thank you.